Looking good so far. Okay, look at that. We're live.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Your background's so much more beautiful than my wall.
You know, I didn't even need to put a fake background behind me. Isn't that nice? All through Corona, we're like, look at this nice beach behind me. Doesn't it look upbeat? Better than my wall. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's like that one Zoom background, that one beach Zoom background that everyone always uses, you know, the one palm tree.
Oh yeah, no, I exactly. I'm like, oh, that's a nice beach. And so I would just use my own photography and put it as my background, actually. That every different seminar I had, I'd be like, yeah, you know, we're going to be on a different reef today, guys. This one's the one in the Philippines.
Oh, so you've been to the Philippines as well?
Oh yes, I lived over there for probably about a year, and I was all over that country. Was it? Oh yes, of course I dove in Coron in Busuanga Bay, exactly.
Because you want wrecks, right? So I lived in the Philippines for 5 years actually. I was doing...
did you love it? How much did you love the Philippines, right?
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, living there can be quite tough, like living and working, because essentially I did the service center there. So I kind of had an office job, which made it weird. But the beaches and the diving was absolutely amazing.
Yes, that's the Philippines is a remarkable country, and the geological formations that you see there, you don't see them really elsewhere. Like Egypt has its own unique sighting as well with the Red Sea, with the juxtaposition of the red rough desert mountains against the azure blue water. But the Philippines is almost like Jurassic Park, with happy Filipinos everywhere. I like the Philippines.
Everywhere. Happy Filipinos everywhere.
Yes, very happy. Very. I managed to get my mother to come over, and she was like, wow, they're happy. I'm like, I know. Happy people. I love the Philippines.
Yeah, they're the most beautiful people. And the funniest thing is, no matter where you go in the Philippines, you can walk into the bush for 4 hours straight, and you will still just run like casually into a bunch of people wearing flip-flops.
Oh yeah, and they've got their beard. They're like, we're gonna drink some rum. I'm like, okay. I love the Philippines, yes, but in amazing diving. I was in Pang Lao for probably about 6 or 7 months in Siquijor, Cebu, Molbal. I was in Coron. I was all over that country. Loved that area.
Okay, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I was based in Cebu, but then obviously also all over the place all the time.
Yeah,
hello everyone.
Geography helps. Hi. Welcome to the Facebook chat.
Yes. We already have a bunch of people in the room. So actually I wanted to ask before we went live, is it Alicia or Alicia? Alicia. Okay, just want to make sure.
Alicia. I'll respond to anything. No, don't worry. I get Lulu, Lily, Aloof, the blonde, the American. I'm all right. I'll come whatever you ask.
Yeah, if you live abroad long enough, then somebody gets like three letters in your name, right? You're like, yeah, that's me.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's me. And then it turns out there's a lot of Ishas in the Arabic language here, so I'm always like, what? Hey, me? Not me?
Oh no,
it sounded like me. Okay.
Okay, Alicia, welcome to our Facebook page. Welcome to our SSI Career Talk, and welcome everyone that is in the room and everybody that's listening live on Facebook. This is another version of one of our career talks. So very excited to have Alicia today. She is a maritime archaeologist. She specializes in wrecks, currently in Egypt, which is so cool. It's like so Indiana Jones somehow in my head. That's what I imagine your life to be like in my head.
That's much more flattering, but in actuality, I'm like, did the children rob from me today? No? All right. Outwards we go with the goats.
So you're not running away from big stone boulders and killing Nazis? No? Is that
maybe fighting Nazis, but I don't think I'd say the last thing I ran from here might have been a car coming at me. So maybe you know what, if you were to Photoshop a boulder on that car, you're right. I am always running from a boulder. Yes. I mean, it is quite exciting. Life in Egypt is, there's never a dull moment living in Egypt. This is sure. I can sit outside and just people watch. And I mean, what you see on a day-to-day is it's so entertaining. Like right now, even looking across the way, the types of people in Dahab that come through, and they're from all over too. This is a very diverse location, and I just love it.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So yes, welcome again to our career talk and everyone out there. So today we're talking a little bit how you can combine your love of history and your love of diving into a career. I mean, how cool is that? It's actually
do you like reading? It is true. It's like, do you like reading? Do you like history? Do you like scuba diving? All right, well, here we go. We're going to go on out there.
So yes, so you guys out there, if you are interested in a career in scuba diving, if you've never even thought about it, maybe this is interesting for you to listen to. And yes, we're going to be talking about for the next hour or so. I'm going to ask Alicia a bunch of questions, but everyone listening, if you're listening live, you're more than welcome to ask your own questions. I will be monitoring the chat. I will ask Alicia the questions that you have so we can make sure to get everything answered. Otherwise, just a quick update from my side, from SSI. We actually have just launched in the last week and a half, we've launched our new app. So whoever hasn't updated to the version 3.0, go ahead and do so quickly. It has a lot of amazing new features, updated logbook. You can now see pictures of your marine life. You have marine life features that haven't been there before. So it's super exciting. So go ahead and update that. So, Alicia, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, hey guys, my name's Alicia. I have been in the scuba career field for 5 years. I've been diving, and I recently decided after leaving the yachting industry that I wanted to pursue my love of history and my love of adventure. So I enrolled in the University of Alexandria here in Egypt, and I am working on my master's dissertation involving effective archaeological management of historic shipwrecks. So I got into this field because I love to travel. I love to read, I love history, and I love being in the water. And I had extensive experience working on boats. So I took all of my skill sets and put them together into what I've become now.
That's amazing. I already have first question from the audience, and that is, what is your favorite type of wreck to study?
I'm big in the World War II wrecks. They're my favorite. Okay. So I'm studying a couple of different shipwrecks at the moment. Okay. I am studying a Roman era wreck. I am studying an Ottoman era wreck, and I am studying a British warship, which I'm sure some of you guys probably know is the Thistlegorm. So in undergraduate, I studied history, and my specialization was specifically 20th century European history. Absolutely loved it. But I also have a degree in classical studies, which is basically studying ancient Rome, ancient Greece, ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, blah, blah, blah. And I have been able to find love and joy in all eras of wrecks, because for me, history is just a continuous story that allows us to be able to understand our background with our affiliations with our maritime heritage. So when I say that I prefer studying World War II wrecks, it is mainly out of my passion of studying conflicting ideologies of the 20th century. And at that point in time, we are on a J curve of military innovation. So you have such dramatic changes in the ships that you see in a very short amount of time. So that's kind of why my passion is in the warships, is because that's basically the biggest and best of human innovation at any point in time. And when a ship is sunk, it becomes a time capsule. So everything that was happening at that exact moment in time gets snatched beneath the waves. And because of the anoxic environment, it gets preserved. So if you can find these wrecks, you can find exactly what was happening on that day that the ship sank. Whether it was military intervention, whether it could have been a self-created problem. We've seen this in some shipwrecks before, or if maybe it was a mutiny, or if it was bad weather. So there's a lot that you can learn about from a shipwreck, in addition to the contents that you find on a shipwreck as well. You can, for example, the ship I'm studying, the Sadana Island shipwreck, they have all of this amazing Qing dynasty porcelain. And what's so interesting about this isn't the fantastic porcelain. It's the fact that the Qing dynasty, which is over in China, created this amazing porcelain specifically for an Islamic community based on the geometrical designs that was created on this porcelain meant for distribution. So because we can see that there was all of these amazing pieces of porcelain created, we have a deeper understanding that the Qing dynasty understood cultural relations with the Islamic people. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been creating something specifically for them. So that's what I like about shipwrecks, is that they're a time capsule. You can, it allows you to peer into the past, even if it's just for a moment.
You're giving a person goosebumps here. That is really cool. That is very true. Very, very true. I have to say, I also like the World War II shipwrecks the most.
They're just so interesting.
I do have a little bit of a problem with very new wrecks. They just creep me out. When you know they sunk within the last few years and you still see like luggage. Like when I was working in Egypt, we were diving the Salem Express.
I was gonna say you did the Express, the ferry, and I would also agree with you actually, is that I from an analytical point of view, I can understand the value of mapping these ships, because you don't want the same terrible accident to happen again. Yeah. Like there's applicable value from my research as well. It's not just put into academic chatter. Like if there's a terrible tragedy that happens, it could be someone like me that goes and looks at what made this wreck happen. But I would agree, specifically with the one you're talking about, several hundred people were on board, and it was a ferry that was leaving from Saudi Arabia and coming back with pilgrims on it who were going for the holy event. So such a tragedy happened, and unfortunately it wasn't just sports divers that went on it at first. You had people who went on looting. They were going through the bodies, they were taking the watches, they were going through all of the luggage. And while as a diving enthusiast, I could see the draw to something like this, from an ethical point of view, it's not necessarily something that I seek out. There are plenty of other wrecks that are much more disconnected from us at this point in time. And furthermore, I think a lot of the times these ethical discussions come from how close is the family still? Because, for example, the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, which is a very well-known wreck in one of the Great Lakes, there are still crew down there. Yeah. Granted, it's really deep, so you have to be a tech diver if you wanted that to be accessible. But because the families are still alive, it's still a very sensitive topic. Same thing with the wreck that we're talking about in Egypt, the ferry. Yeah, no, I agree. And that's why, yeah, it just, that feeling that you get, like for the salary especially, I remember that just that feeling when you get there, it's just like this, like shiver down your spine kind of. As when you go to an older wreck, you have that like, whoa, that's so cool. That's like a museum. Yes, exactly. It's a little bit more disconnected, not necessarily disconnected, but separate from ongoing feelings with the family. Like there were, in 30 years from now, there are going to be amazing historic sites created from what's happening today. But right now it might not be ethically sensitive to go and visit them. So usually some time needs to pass.
100%. So when did you start diving?
I started diving about 5 years ago when I was living in the Virgin Islands and I was working on yachts. They told me, Alicia, if you become a diver, we will pay you more to give guided dives for the clients. And I was like, that sounds like a good idea. So I did, and it turns out I absolutely loved it. And so I immediately got got all of the open water advanced adventure diver all the way up until my dive master very quickly. And I have dove all over the world at this point. And I have been able to find a good bit of work, considering being not only an archaeologist at this point in my life, but beforehand I've been a social media manager. And oftentimes you have a lot of divers who are instructors or DMTs or DMs, but they don't have computer skills. Me, I know photography, I know website design and development, content manufacturing, marketing, et cetera, and so forth. So what I did, instead of the conventional show up and give guides, give guided tours, and give courses, I show up to a dive shop and I ask if they have someone that handles their computers. And they never do.
They usually never do.
They never do. I'm everybody's godsend. Like right now, they're waiting on me to fix the printer. Please fix the printer. So be an archaeologist, you can fix a printer as well.
No, that's amazing. And I do know that a lot of dive centers are looking for people that can handle a little bit of social media. So everyone out there, if you're looking into a career as a dive professional, if you want to have that little bit of extra reason to be hired, do a little bit of research, do like a few online courses. You don't have to study it yourself, but you can learn a lot in like online courses and wherever, practice by doing. And dive centers will really appreciate that because they all struggle with social media.
Exactly. And not only that, but they struggle with continuity and also being able to manage content efficiently. So I'm a photographer as well. If you follow me on social media, you'll see some of my work, but I'm able to use my photography with my area of study, because what my goal is in academia, there's a large disconnect between academics and the public. And this is the big issue I have, is I have lots of friends in both, and they very rarely mingle. They don't mix. So I try to use my ability to photograph whatever I'm studying and looking at to be able to share it with the public, because I have a lot of people that follow me on social media. So I use the academic research, but I present it in a way that is palatable to the public. So I try and create rich content that makes people interested. And when I have the demographic that is interested in the content, I have a follow me link for more information. So I'm able to cast a broad net to many people, and the people who are interested, they can go and look deeper for more of the academic information, rather than just having somebody throw a lot of polysyllabic words at you in Latin that you have no idea what is happening, and you immediately shut down because you have no idea what they said.
That's nice. Easy digestible history.
Exactly.
I like that.
Exactly.
I like that because Latin is not something I ever learned.
Exactly.
Love history, but Latin.
Yes, exactly. I think most people know like Weni Witty Wichi, right? Like I came, I saw, I conquered.
Yes, that's pretty much as far as it goes.
Yeah, right.
So for everyone out there, after this thing is over, Alicia will also leave her social medias in the comments, so you guys can go and follow her, of course. She's also tagged somewhere on Instagram and stuff like that already, but she's gonna leave her stuff in the comments so you can follow her and get more easy digestible history.
Wonderful. This is true.
So you're in Egypt, as we can see, as a trained eye will see on your background.
I promise it's not a background I put there. It's really there.
It's really there. How did you end up in Egypt?
Okay, realistically, I left working on yachts, and I decided I wanted to pursue my master's. America, unfortunately, does not have very affordable higher education. So I looked elsewhere. And I have no problem. I've been a digital nomad. Before I even left to Egypt, I'd been living abroad for probably 7 or 8 years. So traveling in unknown lands is definitely not new for me. But I found the University of Alexandria at the Center for Maritime Archaeology and Underwater Cultural Heritage. I found them on Google, and I checked their backgrounds with UNESCO, seeing the Honor Frost Foundation was funding the organization, and decided to give it a go. So I had to go through the most arduous application, including I had to go to the United Nations in New York, and I walked in with a dive knife. That was bad. Don't walk into the United Nations with a dive knife. Bad mistake. So I had to get all of this paperwork facilitated. And in the time that my paperwork was being processed, that's when I went over to Asia and hung out over there. So it took about 1.5 years for all of my paperwork to be accepted before I was able to go over, because Egypt, unfortunately, is a little bit of a politically tenuous situation over here, and security for internationals, specifically outside of the Sinai, is quite strict. So where I am right now in Dahab, we have lots of foreigners, lots of visitors, lots of Israelis that come from all over the world that come here. But it's not quite that way in mainland Egypt. In Alexandria, in Cairo, people are a little bit hesitant to go there, and you just don't see quite as many foreigners. So getting over there for me was a little bit of an adventure, because they needed to check my credentials, and they needed to make sure that I wouldn't be a security risk. So I am Egyptian approved.
Very nice. 1.5 years with approval of the UN. Okay, that's
right.
Impressive.
United, I know, right? And how many people got that with their master's degree? I'm like, did you have to go to the United Nations? Tell me more.
So tell me a little bit more about your field. So just generally, maritime archaeology, underwater archaeology. Sounds
Well,
really
maritime archaeology is actually quite an expansive topic. It's not just underwater cultural heritage. It refers to any and all of humankind's interaction with the waterways. So you have rivers, you have lakes, you have marshes, you have bogs, like the bog people, that's part of maritime archaeology. You have an immense amount of human interaction with the sea, because this is how we became connected with one another. Long before the internet, we had trade routes. So maritime archaeology can be quite expansive. So say, for example, you find a ship and you want to date it. We have something called dendrochronology, which uses testing a tree, the timber, to figure out what type of tree is it. So you can incorporate a lot of different disciplines into studying maritime archaeology. And it's one of the reasons why I really enjoy it, is because I find so many different skill sets I've accumulated over the years being applicable. And also what I really like about maritime archaeology is the community as well. You get kind of an interesting group of people, like academic sailors, that are really interested in this stuff. So it's fantastic. And I was actually at a conference in Cyprus. So kind of one of the perks to being maritime archaeology is I can also still attend archaeological conferences too that cover all archaeology. So while I might be a niche area, I can still attend the conferences and see the overarching progress in the umbrella field itself. So I kind of like having a niche, but still accessible to the larger concepts.
Yeah, that's really nice. And like you said, like with wrecks, especially they become these time capsules. So I'm sure the information you get, very often you can get more information from back in the days than a lot of archaeologists that work on land can even.
Right, because the water creates an anoxic environment. And one of the first things that leads to something being destroyed is oxygen and weather. If you take away those items, things stay good for a lot longer. And then on top of that, sometimes you get sediment that gets poured on top of these wrecks over the years. And when this happens, it remains even more preserved, because then there's absolutely no oxygen that's permeating the wreck. So say, for example, somebody sees an amphora or something like that. If they get over a team that can come and evaluate it, they might be able to move away some of the sediment and find that there's a much larger ship to see there. It's quite interesting.
That's really cool. So you do work a lot with wrecks, especially now. I mean, you're based in Egypt at the moment. Where does that fascination come from? Why wrecks? Did you dream of it when you were a kid?
I did. I dreamed of wrecks as a kid. How nerdy is that? It's like some people dream of a unicorn. I'm like, I want a shipwreck. I need a submarine. So I would say my fascination with wrecks probably started with not necessarily the film Titanic, but as a child, I was just amazed at seeing the Noah's and National Geographic's and Robert Ballard's photographs of the Titanic. I just thought this was an amazing item. And what fascinated me about the Titanic was not the amazing history behind it. That was cool and all, but it is the moment in time that it sank. The ship sank, and it was in 1912, I believe 1912 or 1914. And at this point in time, you have the beginning of the 20th century, and you have a large separation in the wage gap. And the ship is a perfect example of it. I mean, you can still see the doors of the third class are shut. So, I mean, to see socio-behavior in people and how they act. Like, for example, we find more often than not in a shipwreck this idea of women and children first. Well, that's not necessarily true. Like, people tend to go a little crazy.
Money first.
Yeah, exactly. When self-preservation kicks in, people really don't care about ethical proprieties, and they find out more often than not women didn't survive at a higher rate than men did on a lot of these shipwrecks. So I really like to look at the social commentary that these ships add. And to me, the Titanic is one that adds so much to the discussion, because it comes out of the UK. It's going to New York. You have all of the socialites that are ever going to make a name that are on this ship, and you have feminist leaders like Molly Brown that come out of it, as well as you have a large discussion about what are the ramifications of the shipwreck. So because of the Titanic and how disastrous it was, you have the establishment of maritime law regarding lifeboats. That's a good one. And you see over history, sometimes it takes a terrible disaster for people to be like, man, it's not a good idea. Like we're going a little bit outside of maritime archaeology, but still a ship, the Hindenburg. Nobody ever was like hydrogen in the blimp is a good idea after that. You just didn't see.
So like, well, let's not
You
do
were
that
like, you know,
anymore.
maybe we don't do that one again. So the Titanic for me captured my imagination, but I started learning more and more about the Bismarck. And then that's when I got fascinated with the Bismarck. I was like, the Nazis had ships I could study too. And then I found out Robert Ballard discovered that as well. And I was like, I like this, man. So I started getting more and more interested in the people who were researching this, as well as the history behind these ships themselves, and as well as the military progress that was happening at the time, because the Bismarck was basically the Nazi flagship. This is their biggest and best example. And at the same time, too, you can look at the Japanese equivalents of the Yamato. And I believe we just located that relatively recently because that ship was scuttled. And then at the same time, you have the USS Arizona that was sunk. You have 3 contemporary ships that allow you to see the vast power of 3 different empires at the time. Yeah. So I think ships for me are just a fascinating piece of history. And then, of course, as a child, I remember growing up listening to the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald by Gordon Lightfoot, the song, and just being amazed. I was like, oh, yes. The Chippewa Falls. You're right. 29 men. They went down. Gitchigumi. So, you know, just being entranced by the media, the music, the stories, the photographs, everything about wrecks has always captivated my heart and my soul. And now I'm a scuba diver, so now I get to go down there and check them out personally. Like, hey, how are you doing? I've read about you.
I mean, wreck diving is definitely one of the coolest specialties you can do out there, guys.
I think so too. It most certainly is. And to be able to do it safely is very important, because unfortunately, if you are an inexperienced diver and you dive on some of these wrecks, you actually can cause a lot of damage to them, which I'm sure is you can point out the wreck penetration courses that are offered. They teach you about your best buoyancy, practical behavior. Please don't steal from the ship. Don't steal, guys. Bad idea.
Don't steal. Very bad.
Yes.
Yeah. So we actually even had a question in the comments just now, and that is what would cause you to not go into a wreck? I would think that ranger here means maybe talking about penetration. First of all, that comes from an SSI side. If you are not trained to go into a wreck, you don't go into a wreck. That's the first and most important rule. And then maybe you can give us some other reasons.
Ethical concerns, as we were speaking about earlier. If it's a sensitive location, I would be very hesitant about going. Obviously, you need to be very aware of the environment if you have bad currents or anything like that. If it's an unsafe location, if the tide is incorrect, like when I was diving in the Virgin Islands, we had what was it, I should remember the name, cannot remember it, the wreck of the Rhone. There we go. Wreck of the Rhone. The Wreck of the Rhone was an amazing shipwreck. It was sunk in the 1860s, and it was a British mail ship. And prior to Hurricane Irma and Maria, the ship was accessible. You could penetrate and go inside. Post Hurricane Irma Maria, it done collapsed on itself, so it's no longer accessible. So sometimes you have a meteorological catastrophe that inhibits a wreck that was once accessible to being inaccessible. And if something like this happens, it might also be unsafe as well. Yeah. So is being aware of the actual environment, the setting, where are your emergency services if something does go wrong, and also who are you diving with? Because a lot of the times it's not just me I'm being conscientious about, it's the diving partners and the other people in my team that are with me, because there are a lot of people that might not be experienced, and if they're not experienced, I'm not going to put them at risk.
Yeah, 100%. And make sure that you always go with a local dive center. That's one of the suggestions that because they usually know if you can penetrate a wreck or not. Exactly. And they will help you. So it needs to be a proper dive center. It needs to be they need to obviously follow all the safety standards. And they will also have emergency plans. And they will know if the wreck is also stable enough. Sometimes stability is also a problem. So maybe it's corroded to a place where going in might be a bit dangerous, or maybe there is a lot of nets or fishing lines or whatever
Yes,
on there that could
Ghost
actually get
nets.
you caught. Yeah. So
Mhm.
those are all. So the best tips we can do: first, get your training right, and second, only go with reputable dive centers that know the local wrecks. That's what I would say.
Also your equipment too, because some, like as we were speaking about the wrecks in Baswanga Bay, those are accessible if you're a nitrox diver. So you need to make sure that you have all the proper equipment to be able to do this. Also, gloves. Gloves are your friend. You should not ever touch the wreck, but if something does happen, if you touch it and it's steel or if it's iron, your finger's going to go through it and your finger's going to come off. It's going to just get cut right off. So having gloves and protection, if you have to touch something, you're not going to hurt yourself. And these are actual things that can happen on these wrecks, and they happen a lot, unfortunately. So having the correct equipment to penetrate a wreck is very important.
100%. So we've chatted a little bit now, so I know you don't really have a typical day, but I want our listeners to know what kind of a typical day in your life, or like, what do you generally do?
I bounce out of bed, thrilled to drink my cup of coffee. That's how I start my day. I'm a big morning person, so I am totally happy to be up. Usually I start my day with reading the news, seeing what's going on. I check out Reddit and I check social media, and then
see if there's some
my
new wrecks
emails. Yes, exactly. I'm like, what's going on with that wreck in the Arctic? I saw it from the history guy. He's doing some things there. So I always am reading the news to see what interesting aspects of maritime archaeology are happening, new ideas in the field. And of course, I check my email, and I check my emails from the Nautical Archaeological Society, from the Honor Frost Foundation, from my organization I'm with, to see if there's any future collaborations that I'm on board with. And also I scout out which conferences am I going to be able to attend. And then I start messaging my other colleagues about what they're doing with their day, because a lot of the times being in academia is really just helping each other with their mental health. Telling each other, you got this, you're gonna finish your PhD, I've got this, I'm gonna finish my master's. So I have a lot of power, like beneficial support that goes back and forth. And of course, looking for grants, because as glamorous as my life might seem, the funding you get is based off grants that you write, and they are very competitive. So often I'm talking with colleagues, former mentors of mine, about how I can better my research, how I can hone it in, and are there any possible grants available that could be used from funding my research? Because that's pretty much how all archaeologists are able to earn a living, is off of their writing grants and getting awarded a grant.
Yeah, and research is usually something that's not cheap. Usually.
No.
If there's anything I know about research, that's pretty much it.
Yes, it is not cheap, and it does not pay well. But it is fun. It is a very rewarding career.
This seems to be a little bit of a thing in our industry.
We're like, well, I think it's this. It's like, are you happy with your job? Or we're not going to pay you anything. Great. Are you miserable? Here's 6 figures. So I think there's a big happy trade-off. But I've definitely been in positions where, when I was working on yachts, which wasn't necessarily historical related, but I was still working on the water with scuba diving, where I was making very good money. But I made more money pouring rum drinks for tourists in the Virgin Islands than I did doing fulfilling outreach with children. You know, it's just kind of, it's if you're in academia, you're not in it for the financial draw of it. And I don't think a lot of divers in general are in the diving career field because they want to make a lot of money. If you want to make a lot of money, this is probably not the field for you. But if you want a way to travel, and you want to be able to continuously learn and get to explore. I mean, I'm living in Daha. This place is great. I love it here. My rent's $200, $250 a month. So, I mean, if you wind up living in places where it costs very little money to sustain yourself. So when it doesn't cost much to live, you're not so focused on being a high-end earner. And you can have a little bit more relaxation with knowing you're not going to get a crippling bill, because they just don't happen here, because no one could afford it. So
yeah. So me, for one, I choose happy over rich pretty much almost every day.
I agree. I agree.
Maybe every now and again there's a day where you're like, oof.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah. I agree. There are some days when I wake up and I'm like, "Ugh, I'm not being paid enough money for this. But you know what? Then I step outside and I look at the world around me and what I get to do. And
Mhm.
a lot of
100%.
people would pay a lot of money to have the lifestyle that I do live. So I'm very happy to have that. And privilege isn't necessarily what's in your wallet. Sometimes it's your experiences that you're afforded in the world. Like for one, just being an American, a huge privilege I have are visas. This is something that most Americans don't necessarily know about. They think it's just easy for everyone. It's not. Like I have friends from Egypt, they're applying to go to Helsinki for the same conference. And if they don't get the visa, they might not be able to go. And for me, it's not even a worry. So I mean, it's this is the reality, is that there's privilege in this field, and it's not necessarily what's in your wallet. Sometimes it's where you come from. And these are things that none of us chose. I mean, you didn't choose who you were born to. I didn't choose where I was born to either. And my friends didn't choose. And yet the playing field isn't quite level.
100%. I'm very aware of that problem. I have an Austrian passport, which is also cool. I can pretty much go anywhere.
That is a good one. I was going to say the Austrian one is a good one.
if I don't automatically get a visa, I usually pay like something between 10 and $50, and then I have a visa.
They're like, come on, in, please come on in. Yeah, exactly. But it's not that way for most people.
Yeah, my husband's from South Africa, and if we try to travel somewhere together, it's a bit more tricky.
Yes, I would say most certainly.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a question. I have another question. If one of our listeners, so we have maybe hopefully people out there that are interested in what you do. If one of our listeners is interested to do what you do,
oh really?
How can they get there? How can they start? Where do they start?
Well, if you're interested in being a maritime archaeologist, step one is your bachelor's. Got to get your bachelor's degree. If you wish to go into higher level education in academia, minimum is your bachelor's. And then you can start your graduate school. And
bachelor's should be in history, or what do you think? Best.
It could be in anthropology, it could be in archaeology, it could be in history, it could be in environmental science. I mean, that's kind of the good thing about archaeology, is that it has so many different skill sets that if you have any of them, they'll pull you in here. I mean, we had somebody that had a degree in computer science that went into the field. So basically, your undergraduate and doing well in your undergraduate is very helpful. The second thing would be finding a graduate program that you feel fits your direction. And I would say with SSI, obviously I would plug scuba diving's great, but I know I had friends and colleagues that were second year graduate students that didn't know how to swim. So you don't even need to know how to swim if you want to become a maritime archaeologist. There are some people I know that they don't even go in the water. So I mean, you can be in this field and still be doing on land analysis and data collection and all of this good stuff. So more so the entrance into being an archaeologist would just be basically finishing your undergraduate and applying for graduate school. And also, if you wanted to get involved with community science outreach, there are organizations like the Nautical Archaeological Society and MAGS and whatnot. And these guys are all happy to facilitate community science. And community science is when academics and scientists work with the community to collect information, like you guys are going to do with my questionnaire that we're going to send out after this. So there are ways in getting involved in your local community. If you're from a coastal area, learning about the history, getting involved in the museum if there's a museum nearby, volunteering, all of these are ways that you can get involved in the community.
Okay, that's amazing. Yes, and anyone out there, I would still suggest do a diving course, because it just helps. I mean, it just brings
it helps closer, a lot, doesn't
it?
It definitely
also,
helps.
SSI offers swim programs. I mean,
this is true. And like I was saying, it's you can go into the field. Learning to scuba dive is definitely helpful and will get you much more work, but it is not the first step you need to take.
So I have a next question. I mean, you do a lot with wrecks, right? And wrecks are usually, okay, and this is something that I just gained. It's well, what I'm thinking, because most wrecks I know are somewhere between 30 and 20 and 40 meters. Those are the diveable ones. So
I was going to say
most
those
wrecks
are
are a
the
bit
diveable
deeper.
ones. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then obviously a lot deeper wrecks there's also, but the ones that most people know, they're like more common ones. But did you have to do any like special training? Did you do any XR training or anything like that to do your job better, or to like go to wrecks? And
I took wreck penetration courses, and I was actually recently in a workshop for photogrammetry, and that's creating a 3D model via capturing continuous images of a location or site. So I'm continuously learning more information. I also took a course on GQIS, which is helping to plot data points. Now, say for example, you want to evaluate different shipping patterns in meteorological occurrences. Say you notice that this one location has 5 or 6 different wrecks on it. You can probably guess maybe there's a rock there, maybe there's a bad current, maybe there was a port nearby. So you can use a lot of these different software programs to be able to analyze data, input it, as well as be able to project it to the public. Because while not everybody is an auditory learner, sometimes people learn better from visualizing their data. So if you present locations of shipwrecks in a map with a nice key, it might be much more fluid for someone to be able to listen to and digest than, say, listening to someone give a PowerPoint presentation.
I'm that someone.
Yeah, and that's okay. This is all about how do we reach people effectively. It doesn't matter if it's something I want. It doesn't matter. It's how does the public feel? How are we able to engage with the public? What is digestible for them? One of the biggest mistakes a designer can make is to design for themselves. Yeah. And as an archaeologist, this is often the mistake I see a lot of other academics doing, is they design for themselves. And what ends up happening is no one reads their work. They get published a bunch, that's great, but it's behind paid access for these websites. So the public doesn't read anything. So what value does it actually add to the public and our heritage if it's never read or ingested?
So when you do, I mean, the project that you're doing right now, I mean, you're doing an upcoming project on the Thistlecombe, or what did you?
Yes, I'm involved in an expedition that's going to be going out in a couple of weeks from now with some gentlemen from the University of Edinburgh, as well as from the University of Alexandria as well. It's a joint operation. And we're going to be going over to multiple different wrecks and mapping them, analyzing them, capturing images of them. And also it's going to be a little bit of field work education for me and my colleagues as well. Because we're always learning.
When you map wrecks that have already been mapped for our audience out there, why do you do that?
Oh, well, because we want to see what's happened to the wreck over the last couple of years, because these wrecks, they probably will not be there forever. It is just part of life, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And when we're mapping these, we can evaluate, why did the anchor fall off of the Thistlecombe? What happened here? Is it because there's unsustainable numbers of divers? Is it because people are inexperienced? So we're able to evaluate effects from divers, as well as effects from weather, from currents, if a boat dragged on it. Also, as we mentioned earlier with ghost nets, trawling is a hugely devastating part against maritime archaeology, because with trawling fishing, they just drag that net right across. And you know what that does? It just destroys the site.
Everything.
It's just gone. So if we go to a wreck and we've mapped it and then we go back and the wreck is destroyed, well, it helps us to be able to push for better legislation as well, because these are obviously harmful practices. So you can't necessarily rally against something without evidence. So a lot of the time, this is able to help us be able to evaluate better regulation for these sites, better sustainability plans. Also, we can evaluate at-risk sites as well. So that's why mapping is helpful, is because it provides a point of reference in the story of the shipwreck as of this point right now.
That's really amazing. I have another question, and that is, if somebody wants to start wreck diving and get into it, what other specialties, and let's talk SSI or scuba diving in general, what other specialties would you suggest for someone to take? Deep diving.
You need to at least be doing your adventure diver. You need to be doing your deep diving, your nitrox diving. I would recommend peak buoyancy. That's a good one. You need to have good buoyancy for going into a wreck. So you need to be further beyond being a beginner, because now you're getting into specialty diving. And if you're really wanting to go on a deep sea wreck, you like a really deep one, you'd be looking into tech diving, which is the next step in my career, will be going even deeper. So you get much more into the specialization courses. And also I, as an avid photographer, I always recommend doing underwater photography, because it's part of being able to share our cultural heritage with one another. Like, who doesn't want a sweet picture of themselves on the Thistlegorm? Well, if it's out of focus,
one of the toilets, like everyone has.
I have that photo. That's right on Yolanda's reef. I should post it. Exactly. You want your photos in focus with the correct resolution as well as the correct ISO. So like when you learn underwater photography, you start learning the best angles to take a photo from. And I know this sounds a little superficial, but these are the things that people want to do. They want to know how to take a good photo underwater. So I would say your deep diving, your rescue course, nitrox if you want to be able to do a longer bottom time, and then of course like wreck penetration. So those would be the main ones I would recommend. And of course your peak buoyancy. You must be buoyant.
Buoyancy, perfect buoyancy is really one of the most important courses of all time.
Yes.
And then let's just talk a quick tip and a quick thing for equipment. If you want to do a lot of wreck diving and if you want to get a little bit more up close, always make sure that your hoses are properly stowed away.
Do not be a Christmas tree. Do not be a Christmas tree. Bring it all in.
Yes, 100%.
You're right about that.
Yes. That's very important, because that's another thing. If you go into basic penetration of a wreck, and even if it's just doing a basic swim through and after like an advanced wreck course, you see daylight on both times, both sides, you're basically allowed after advanced wreck to do that. But your hoses need to be nice and stowed away, nice and tucked, because if you get stuck, you have a problem.
Exactly. And you might not realize you're stuck until you've accidentally started kicking up some sediment. There's more reasons why peak buoyancy is important.
Ranger's actually asking, how about night and limited visibility? Night maybe not, but limited visibility, definitely.
I was going to say, I have dove on some wrecks at night. It's not necessarily a good thing to do. It's a little dangerous.
It's a bit creepy.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I might have come face to face with a 6-foot barracuda around the bow of the Rhone. That was a little terrifying. And then I found out they had, what was his name? Lobsterzilla. I didn't know about Lobsterzilla. I found Lobsterzilla in the dark in the Rhone. And let me tell you, seeing a meter-long sea bug, a little scary. But I
can appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I did the Thistlegorm. We do wreck dives on that. So if you want to do a wreck at night, go with a reputable dive company with a reputable guide, and make sure you have a good torch and you have done the aforementioned education, because going into doing more extreme and dangerous dives, because this is what they are, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, you need to be safe and you need to have your education and you need to have experience. These are not sites to go on just for fun. This isn't a movie, it's real life. If you don't come back, you don't come back. So being sure that your equipment is tested regularly, your knowledge is tested, and the dive shop you're going with is well reviewed and well known.
100%.
And a spare torch. If you can bring a second one, maybe bring a spare torch.
Always bring a spare. I mean, it can be a little one. It can be a small one, but always bring a spare torch.
Exactly. And your compass. Yes, exactly. I was going to say, and just be very aware that if you're diving on a wreck at night and there's sediment, it's much more disorienting than if there's sediment in some daylight, because looking through sediment with a light, it's very disorienting. And that's another thing you have to have I wouldn't say a stress-free mentality, because I don't think I've ever dove completely stress-free, but you need to have your wits about you, because this is it's not a game. You need to be responsible. And also you might have other divers with you, and their safety is part of your responsibility if you've become a career diver.
100%. Did I hear correctly that you have a blog where you actually make it digestible for people to learn more about wrecks?
Yes, I have my Aloof Nerd blog. It varies in between what I'm discussing about this week, whether it's women's rights or if it's shipwrecks or if it's academia.
All important things.
It's kind of an all-encompassing blog that is my life, or travel as well. But if you go on my website, aloofnerd.com, you can actually read my proposal I'm working on. And if you follow me on Instagram as well, or if you follow my Alicia Johnson on Facebook account as well, you can see everything that I'm doing. And also not only just my blog, but you can see my friends as well. Like my buddy Ziad Morsi is an amazing maritime archaeologist, and he's super active on Twitter. So it's not only just following what I'm doing, I tag other people in the field too. So I try and connect the public with other big people in the field. And that's kind of what I try to do is give people information in a fun way that keeps them interested and connected.
That's amazing. That's really nice. And it's nice to have a place to find all of that information, like easy-ish, digestible. You don't have to. Do you have to know Latin? No Latin. Okay.
Some of my I'm actually working on a blog right now to make my thesis a little bit more digestible, because my proposal and publications for it, it's written in legalese, academic-ese, but the polysyllabic words, because when I present research, it has to be submitted.
That's what you have to do. Yes,
so I rewrite it and make it more understandable for the public. So actually right now I actually finished writing the blog. I need to submit it to a couple of different locations, and then I'll have it up on my website as well. So that's kind of something I do, is try and make my content digestible and fun. I like to use humor. I find humor to be a very effective way to reach the public.
I agree. I 100% agree.
Yeah. Humor is very helpful.
That was the worst. By the way, as a side note, that was the worst for me, starting to do talks on Zoom when COVID came, and I did like talks and everybody was on mute. And when you just make a quick joke, and you expect somebody to laugh, but you just like,
it's
okay, silence. It was like, I thought I was funny once.
No, you were funny. You were. You don't even need to question.
I don't need.
No, I just tell myself I'm funny. I'm like, I don't even care if you guys don't find it funny. I find it funny. Giggle.
So we're coming to an end, and I have 2 more questions left. If the audience has has any more questions left, please go ahead and let us know. Otherwise, I want to know, what is your favorite wreck that you have done to this point? Favorite wreck of all times?
The wrecks in Baswanga Bay, the Japanese warships, were incredible. Okay, so deep dive, you get to penetrate all inside of these wrecks. There's multiple wrecks in this bay. I think there's 7 or 8 different ships you can dive. And I actually managed to go on a day when apparently there was nobody. So I had myself a private boat with 2 very nice European instructors and me. I was like, hey, just go dive the wrecks, boys. And they're like, oh, you're a dive master? I'm like, yeah. So we just went and had a great time on these wrecks. So it was, the entire experience was going on the Filipino boat, diving on this wreck, there being nobody there, and having 2 people I became good friends with that we were just kind of, when you have a bunch of professionals that are diving, it's just a good time, because the worry about the happiness of the guest isn't quite there at that point, because you realize you're all professionals in the field, you're gonna have a good time. So for me, the wreck dives in Coron in the Philippines were, at this point, my opinion is always subject to change, were my favorite. But the Thistlegorm
epic dives.
They are epic dives. I'm like, this is great. And I was doing these when I was still a novice diver. Like, granted, I had my dive master credentials, but I've doubled, if not tripled, the amount of dives I've had since I was doing those. So the Philippines was an amazing dive. The Thistlegorm is also an incredible ship as well. So I mean, it's hard to compare, because you have you have different environments in which these ships are. Like Egypt has different visibility, different marine life that's on there. And I mean, the thistlegorm has a heck of a current with it. So you go the wrong day on the thistlegorm and it could be problematic. But also the history of the thistlegorm was Jacques Cousteau discovering it in 1955. I mean, that's super cool. I mean, I dive above the motorcycles that Jacques Cousteau do. Oh, look at it. Oh, we have a Dalmatian. Here comes the dogs. That's another good thing about my life. There's always animals just always coming. So that I would say Baswanga Bay at this point is still just bee's knees for diving.
100%. I agree. I had this one dive day. And I don't remember which of the wrecks it was, but it was the one. It was lying like this.
The ones with the guns down at the bottom, right?
Yes. And the light hit so amazingly. It was like everything, it looked like it was sparkling, right? So I was just going there and it was this angel
like, wow,
moment.
This is angelic.
And fish everywhere. And I was just like, what?
Yeah. It's like all life pauses for a moment for you to admire the history behind you. I agree.
Yeah,
I've had a couple of those. They're nirvana moments in diving.
Yes. Especially when there's not so many people. That's probably my worst.
That's definitely one of the nirvana. There's never a nirvana moment if there's a lot of people. There's a lot of stressful moments of me being like, please don't touch the coral. Why are you stepping on the coral?
Please don't die.
Recently I had somebody who he grabbed onto a turtle. I get out the water and I'm like, please don't grab the wildlife again. He's like, what wildlife? And I'm like, that's a turtle. He's like, that's not an animal. And I'm like, are you trying to fight me about if a turtle's an animal? Because I told him straight up, I was like, look, man, I'm not going to kick you out of the dive center, but if you do this at another dive shop, they probably will. So don't touch the turtles. So the more people, the more stress. Yeah, it's not an animal.
It's like the same people. Like,
what do you think it is?
So I'm vegetarian, and in half the countries I go to, but you eat chicken, right? I'm like, no, chicken's an animal.
Yeah.
No, chicken's fine.
An animal. Yeah. So when you have the disconnect between reality, yes, you know, the ripe chicken, you just pick off the vine. Yes, it's beautiful. Seasonal, of course, you know.
So my last question for today, the audience is still good for now, it seems. My last question for today is, what is your number one bucket list wreck that you still want to do?
I mean, can I say the Titanic? I want a submarine. Yeah, hands down. I want a submarine, and I want to go see the Bismarck, and I want to go see the Titanic. Yep, hands down.
Did you ever do you submarine at all, or did you not do that yet?
They haven't let me have one yet. That's on. I need to go get my captain's license so I can get control of the submarine. I've got a plan.
So you need a captain's license, especially for submarines. How do you get that?
If I were to be running, well, you have to have experience with running boats, and I lived on yachts and boats for several years. So you have it. What is it? I think it's 350 days or 360 days at sea for your, I think it's 50 ton license, and then 760 or 750 days at sea for your 100 ton. So basically, if you want a captain's license, you have to work on a boat. And you have to log those hours, and then you can apply for what's called in Europe your yacht masters, or your U.S. Coast Guard your 6-pack is the first step into that. So if I wanted to run the submarine, I would have to have this. Otherwise, I'm just gonna, do what James Cameron did and write a Oscar-worthy film to justify why I need the submarine.
Yes, that seems very achievable.
I think so. I'm gonna get to work to it after this. Actually, romance tragedy against the 20th century. Maybe we put it on the Lusitania. I think we can make a spin off of that one. All right.
A quick note to our customers in the comments, to all the people listening still, please let us know what is your number one bucket list wreck, or what is your favorite wreck. Maybe you have a wreck for us that we didn't talk about, or something that you say is the best wreck of all times and we just don't know about it yet. So we might have to go there.
I was going to say, there's still shipwrecks to be discovered. We don't even know about them yet. I mean, this is kind of the cool thing about maritime archaeology. We've always got new discoveries happening. It's super cool. And also,
especially, yeah, because the ocean is so undiscovered.
It's so undiscovered.
To the land.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't know if people realize this, but the reason the Titanic was discovered wasn't because they got some money for it. No, it was because of the Cold War. Like the US government was giving funding to deal with Soviet submarines. And at the end of the expedition, they had time and money left over. And were like, what if we actually go and look for the Titanic now? And they found it. So
wow, I didn't know that.
It's pretty cool. They're like, oh, yeah, no, right, we did find it. Check.
Nice. So there was something good coming from the Cold War, I guess.
Yeah, the Titanic, right?
It ended up making you a maritime archaeologist.
Made Leonardo DiCaprio a famous person too. Yeah, very important.
Okay. Oh, so I have one last question. Probably the most important one yet.
Okay.
Jack definitely had space on that door, right?
I totally think so. I think that I'm like, Rose,
you just
could have moved over.
Yeah, she could have just scooched over.
She's like, I'll never let go. Goodbye. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Cold.
And she still broke off his frozen arm.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know. Yes, I agree. Yes, there was room for Jack on the boat, on the door. They could have snuggled, and if they had peak buoyancy, they would have been fine.
Yes. Thank you, Alicia. It was a real pleasure to have you. It was a really, really fun topic and really interesting for me as well. So,
well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Definitely going to check out your blog, and our listeners should do the same. Alicia will put a link into the comments, of course, to all of her things. I think you have a link tree of some sort, right?
Yeah, I'll be able to send you the link tree, and also the questionnaire in regards to what everybody knows about underwater cultural heritage and shipwrecks. If you guys take a couple of minutes to fill out my questionnaire about shipwrecks and what you guys know about it, you guys can help me with my dissertation. So that would be immensely helpful to anyone who's listened if you guys fill out my little questionnaire.
100%. Do you have like a Google document link, or what do you have?
Yes, I sent you the link for it early, but I will be more than happy to send it again for you.
Yeah, and maybe you just put it in the comments of the chat, so everybody that was listening and that will listen afterwards still can fill out the form for you. So that would be really helpful, I think, for Alicia, and very interesting for us. Yeah. And we can follow the story along on the blog, I guess.
Oh yeah, and actually you guys featured my reel of the Thistlegorm today on your SSI Instagram page. So if you guys go on SSI's most recent reel, it's my work with the GoPro. I've upgraded to a new camera, so I'm very excited about the new equipment I'm gonna have. So be on the lookout for more shipwreck content coming from me.
More wreck content. That's amazing. Yeah, exciting. And guys, don't forget to update your SSI app, and don't forget to do a wreck specialty. Check it out. Go on our website. On the website, you can find all the information on wreck, advanced wreck. We go as far as technical wreck, so you can do all the wrecks and everything inside, outside, whatever you want. And really important, don't forget, deep diving is a great specialty to have, as well as nitrox.
Yes, it is. I would say exactly. Well, thank you again so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you everyone for listening. And if you are listening in replay, you are more than welcome to still ask your questions. Alicia and I will come back into the comments in the next few days just to make sure we can answer all your questions. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you guys next time. I'll have, just a quick reminder, on the 22nd of May, I will be talking to the manager of Deep Spot in Poland, the 45-meter deep pool. Also has a little wreck there. It's a really
Oh, does it really? Oh man, maybe I need to come check it out.
It's a little
Sounds
wreck.
Great. A little wreck.
Little witty.
You know, the right photography, with my underwater photography, I'll make it look real big.
Yes, right angle, good fish eye. It also has a really cool cave system. It has a cool cave system that everybody can go in. So definitely come and check that one out. That is on the 22nd. That's in 2 weeks from now on a Sunday. Thanks everyone for listening, and thank you, Alicia.